Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Plan B Success. Today, we have someone from a unique background. Jodi Krangle is the founder and CEO of voiceoversandvocals.com. She is what you call a voice actor, and we'll find out what a voice actor is from herself. But she's been through a turmoil of ups and downs in her life, done different things before she ended up doing what she's doing now. And she really enjoys it. She's been doing it since 2007. She works with several companies in terms of giving voiceovers and helping them with their brands. She's also a singer, and in 2015, she released an album. We'll hear all about that as well. Before we go any further, let me welcome Jodi. Jodi, welcome aboard. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much for asking me on.
Awesome. So why don't you tell us, what do you do?
Well, voiceovers, I kind of liken it to audio branding for my clients. So it makes them sound professional in whatever they're doing. That's commercials, so TV, radio, streaming media, online, even their telephone systems. Anything that might put them forward to their audience. Mm-hmm. The people that might conceivably buy their service or product. Or, for charities and nonprofits, getting people to open up their wallets for a good cause. You need a voice for that too. So it's a lot of different things.
So you've been doing it since 2007, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So obviously you love it, and I'm sure you're doing really well in that sphere. Is there a lot of competition?
You know what? Myself and my colleagues, we don't really think of each other as competition. Mm-hmm. It's a strange subsection of the acting genre. Right. In that we're all behind the camera, we're not in front of it usually. So this is really unusual for me. But usually we're behind the camera. We're the voice only, and every one of us has a very unique sound. And it's up to our clients who they choose. So it's not you don't look the part, it's you don't sound the part. And for some reason, that's a little less personal, if that makes any sense. So having the right sound for the client really has no bearing in what you actually physically look like.
Right, absolutely.
It's just it's theater of the mind. So whatever that client wants, what they're hearing is what they hire. And I can't say that, obviously, the people who compete in this industry are trained and know what they're doing. And every one of us has spent time and money in bettering ourselves in getting better at what we do. But if all things are equal, it's really up to the end client to decide what they want and how that sounds. And that's not up to me. It's a completely subjective thing. So I have no control over that. Someone could say, "Oh, you sound like my mother-in-law. I'm never going to hire you." Or "Oh, wow, you sound like that girl that I met at the barista at the coffee place. I really liked her. Yeah, let's go with that." Right? Like, you never know.
Right, absolutely. So what all kinds of things do you do when you talk about voiceovers? Like, you're working with companies. Mm-hmm. What else do you do? Like, who all are you working with?
Well, there's all sorts of genres of this. I tend to stick to the genre and industries and type of things that these industries need that are 5 minutes of finished audio or less. Okay. So I don't do things like e-learning. I don't tend to do audiobooks. I don't really do animation or video games, although that is huge and a lot of people love it, and all the power to them. They're very talented. I tend to stick to corporate narrations, web videos, explainer videos, streaming ads on places like Pandora and iHeartRadio, television, direct to TV, all that kind of stuff. So infomercials, I've done infomercials. I just find it a lot of fun because it gives that company a brand that they can be proud of, that I'm happy to provide them. And it makes them sound professional.
And how do you find your work, or how does your work find you?
There's a lot of different ways. These days, there are directories that voice talent can pay a small amount to be a part of, and you're listed there, and clients go there and they can decide who they like from a list, or they can put out an audition notice and receive auditions from whole bunch of people everywhere. There's agents, of course. So depending on where you're located, sometimes it doesn't matter. Nowadays, it matters less than it used to.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people will have agents all over. So you can have agents in Europe, you can have them in Asia, you can have them in Canada and the US and, anywhere, right? So having as many agents as possible to give you opportunities can be really helpful. Obviously, you want to work with people who know what they're doing and can get some decent auditions. And then there's you going out and outreach. So doing some research, like going on LinkedIn and looking at the companies, the big advertising agencies or video production companies that you might want to work with, and following them for a little while and seeing what they do and commenting on their stuff and, getting some ideas of what their culture is, how they do things, and then reaching out to people directly. So you can do all sorts of research on the web, too. There's tons of ways to do this.
So where do you do this work? Like, are you out there visiting studios, or do you have one of your own?
I do go to studios inside Toronto if I need to. I'm just north of Toronto, so I'll drive into the city if something happens in the city. But generally, you're seeing me in my studio.
All right.
So I have a 5x4 sound-treated, basically insulated, and it has air circulation as well. It's a padded box.
All right.
I'm in my padded box. Yeah. And the microphone and the headphones and all of that. So I do have my own studio. This is where I do the majority of my work. And it is as dead a sound as possible, which means there's as little reflection of anything as possible. And what that does is it gives an audio engineer, the template. It gives them the ability to play with the audio the way that they want to fit into whatever production they're working on.
Okay.
So I haven't colored it before they started. I haven't ruined it for them.
All right.
Yeah.
So how did you get started in this line of work?
Well, it probably started a long, long, long time ago. I know a lot of people who get started in radio say this happens to them too. When I was 11, I used to call into a talk radio show late at night for me. Mm-hmm. I thought my parents didn't know what I was doing, but I'm not really sure they didn't know what I was doing. And I would link up my boom box, because this was a while back, to try and tape the show when I was on it, because the DJ would regularly let me talk. I was thrilled by this. I was 11, an adult was paying attention to me. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of how the bug bit. It was a radio show on CKEY here in Toronto. And years ago, way too many years. But that was kind of where the bug bit. I was interested in hearing how that sounded and what it did in the greater context of the world. It just fired me up. I thought it was fascinating. And listening to it on the radio was equally as fascinating, even after I was done. So, it just kind of went from there. But a lot of my working life led up to what I'm doing now, and it didn't quite start that way. In 95, 96, I did some volunteer work for the CNIB, which is the Canadian National Institute for the Blind. Mm-hmm. So I was reading books onto tape, and at that time it really was tape. It was reel to reel. So I was as fascinated with the tech as I was with the recording. And when I did this, I really enjoyed it, but it was something that I wasn't getting paid for. So it just kind of, it sort of started falling by the wayside as much as I liked it, because life, mm-hmm. Right? So life kind of takes over and moves you in a different direction. And I was actually, at the time, I think I was looking for some kind of fulfillment, because I had just transitioned from selling computers to being a secretary. Mm-hmm. And in a really small, really quiet office. I was the only person there for most of the day, which for me was fine. I was perfectly happy with that. But but it was one of those safe, comfortable jobs that you just keep on doing because the stuff you do around it is interesting, like your hobbies are interesting. And so you're sort of not quite fulfilled, but you're not unfulfilled, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So the stuff you're doing on the side is a lot of fun, and it's kind of keeping you in the place you're not quite happy, but it's not horrible, right?
Right.
So I learned the internet when I was on that job because there was very little to do, and I was alone in that office for a long time. So we got a modem, and I went online, and I started a website in 95 on songwriting, and I started learning about websites and how to design them and all of that. And that got me on the path of leaving a full-time job and becoming a telecommuter for a while for a software gaming company, actually. I started doing their marketing because they wanted to sell their game, and I knew the internet, and it was all new, and we were all having a good time. Mm-hmm. And they did some great work, and we did some great work together. And then when that ended, I went out on my own and did SEO and internet marketing for clients of my own. So that sort of started the transition from having a full-time job to not having a full-time job and having to get off my butt and do the work, or you don't make money, mm-hmm. which is, that's a transition. That's going to take some time for people. Luckily I had already done that for several years. I started that in 95, and then, I went out on my own telecommuting until around 1999. And then it was after that I was working on my own. So working on my own from 1999 until 2007, doing SEO and internet marketing. And then from there, I got bored. I think that's I wasn't really into the whole SEO thing anymore. I was like, I'm kind of done. I'm over this. Mm-hmm. It wasn't feeding a passion. It was getting a little monotonous. And Google was the only game in town by then. I remember when I started, there was lots of stuff going on. It was a free-for-all. It was fun. There was all sorts of things you could learn, and there were all sorts of different search engines and browsers and all sorts of things that you could test out and have fun with. And then Google became the only game in town, and Firefox and Chrome, the only game in town, and it just bored me to tears. Mm-hmm. So I went back to my first love. I kind of went back to, how can I use my voice? And I went the first place that it would always occur to me to go. I went onto the internet because that's where I lived. It's that's kind of my life. And I really found a lot of interesting information very quickly. I found a lot of people willing to help. One of the things about voiceover is that it's a very giving community, and they're very tolerant of newbies coming in and asking questions. And I was very lucky that a veteran actor of 30 plus years from Chicago took me under his wing and told me I actually need to act. And actually we exchanged MP3s back and forth for a while as he taught me this, which was really generous of him because I wasn't paying him, and mm-hmm. This was taking time, I kind of credit him with my career. So that's how it started. And then, it just kind of exploded from there. But I will say that it took me probably 2.5 years to make the same amount of money that I was making as an SEO internet marketing person with voiceover. So, but then the sky's the limit, right? It just hasn't stopped. So, can't complain.
So are your clients international in nature?
Yes, yeah. The great majority of them actually are in the U.S., but I do work with clients all over the world. So mostly Europe, and some in Brazil and Spain, and of course Canada. So.
So you got into other things too after that, your podcasts, for instance. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, the podcast was sort of almost like an outreach. It was kind of like a blog. I wanted to be more purposeful and more regular with my blog. So in June, I sort of started talking about stuff. And it went from talking about stuff to an actual title. And I decided that I was going to help fellow creatives be kinder to themselves, because I don't know how many you might be like this yourself, but a lot of people I know who are very creative are really, really hard on themselves in their own head. Mm-hmm. Like they tell themselves outright lies that are just horrible. Like some of the things you say inside your own head, you would never say to another person, ever, in a million years. And yet you're saying it regularly in your own head. It's just not healthy. And I don't think we realize that we're doing it sometimes because it's a habit. It's something, oh, it's okay. It's just me, right? But words have power. And right. So if you're telling yourself that you're not worthy, or that you're going to fail at this, or that, what are you doing? You're making an idiot out of yourself. Then you're going to have a self-fulfilling prophecy in a lot of cases. So why not change the inner dialogue? So that was a lot of why I decided to do that, just to help people be kinder to themselves. There's a lot in our day-to-day life that's all about productivity and getting every second of every day to be worth having that second. And sometimes it's okay to just sit back and chill with Netflix. Like, really, it's okay to take a break. You don't have to be productive every second of the day. If you're not productive for certain times, if you take time to just relax and sit back and enjoy your life and figure out where you are, you can better approach the productivity. You're a better person. It's like putting on your air mask in an airplane before you put on your kid's mask. Right, exactly. You need to help yourself before you can help anyone else. So, I'm just kind of pushing back against that, let's do this. Let's get this done all the time. It's not necessary. And I think it's different for everybody. I'm an introvert generally, so I respond better to different things. And I know that there are people who get their energy from being in crowds and love the busyness of just being out in the world. And that's great. If that's how you get your energy, that's fantastic. Do it more. But I think we have to recognize who we are personally before we can understand how we regain our energy and do more of that. Because if we're depleted, like I was saying, we can't help anyone else. So, right. Anyway.
So in your line of work...
That's what the podcast was about.
Okay. Yeah, I understand. Yeah. So are you doing any other podcasts right now?
I am working on a new one. Thank you for asking. I am currently pivoting into a different aspect of what I do for a living and as a passion. So I'm going to start a podcast called Audio Branding, the Hidden Gem of Marketing. So a lot of people, I think, don't pay attention to how their company is heard as well as they do to how it's seen. And if the how it's seen doesn't match how it's heard, it confuses people. It might turn them off. If your audio is less professional than your brand, than your visual brand, then you're giving a bad impression. It's, first impressions always are important. And I think the audio portion of that is as important as the visual.
So, after having worked for so many years in this line, is there active things that you do in terms of seeking work or being relevant or being present in the community?
Well, the podcast was a lot of that because it was geared towards a lot of the people in the voiceover community, although I'm also involved in music communities and artist communities, and I know people who face paint, all sorts of different creative ventures. So that was very fulfilling in that. And certainly I think helped to make me a part of the community. But Facebook is kind of my jam. Like, I know, okay, I'm like probably aging myself like hugely because like who pays attention to Facebook anymore, right? But it's kind of where I am. So there are a lot of groups on Facebook that are voiceover specific. And those communities remain very close together. So both on Facebook and on LinkedIn, there are also groups and people who regularly comment on each other's stuff and pay attention to each other, and they're on your friends list and, you know, their contacts. And that's very connecting. So online media, the social media really helps a lot for all of us to stay in contact. So a lot of the Facebook groups are very helpful in that.
So what do you do in terms of regular learning or training or things that you need to do to keep current?
There are all sorts of coaches out there that do voiceover coaching. And I have been studying with a fantastic coach. Her name is Nancy Wolfson for probably 2 years now, I think. And before that, with others who were really very talented and had definite golden nuggets to offer. I watch a lot of television. I listen to the environment. I listen to what's around me. I've gotten into the podcasting now, so that's kind of interesting. And just in general, being aware of what's happening around me and where the voices are coming from and how they're sounding. So even a kiosk in a building has a voice in a lot of cases. Mm-hmm. Telephone systems have a voice. You know, what calming voice is on the other end of that phone when you've been waiting for half an hour? You know, you probably want to throw your phone across the room, but, you know, someone had to do that. Right. You know, things like that. So it keeps you aware of what the trends are. And trends can vary depending on the type of voice. So, you know, there's a lot going on and there's a lot changing. And I think it's a good thing.
How about your singing career? Let's talk a little bit about that. You know, the album that you released and where are you going with that?
Well, the album was really more of a labor of love. The reason that I released it in the first place was because a friend of mine, one of the best musicians I've ever met in my life. He plays everything and he plays everything well. One of those people that you like love to hate. I adore him. His name is Chris Conway and he is in Leicester in the UK. And we have known each other for probably 18 years now, I think, something like that, maybe a little longer. And for a really long time, we always said that we wanted to make an album together. And it took a while because the technology for us to be recording on both sides of the world wasn't really there until 2015. And in 2015, he put together a bunch of backing tracks. We decided we were going to do it. He interpreted a lot of these in ways I never anticipated, and the singing changed as a result, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I can't thank him enough because he made it possible. I sing. That's all I do. Mm-hmm. So if I didn't have someone else doing the backing tracks, I'd just be SOL. Mm-hmm. That would be it for me. But he made it possible, and I'm really happy with how it turned out.
Are you still going to pursue your singing career?
I still sing on a regular basis, sometimes even in voiceovers. You know, some characters need voices. But I sing at a fan convention, a fandom convention in Atlanta with a 9-piece jazz band. And this is just a once-a-year fun thing. I'm not being paid. And it's a blast. And I think I've been doing it for the last 17 years. I think this year will be 17 or 18 years, something like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun. And I love the torch songs. Like, I love the jazz torch songs. Those are my favorites. And so doing it with a 9-piece band is just outstanding. It's so much fun.
You know, I want to go back to the 2.5 years that you mentioned when you actually made the transition. Mm-hmm. You know, you wanted to do something that you loved. So you consciously made a decision to move away from a career that you already had to reinvent yourself and make that your full-time profession, so to speak. So talk to us about that. Those 2.5 years, did you ever have self-doubts? Did you ever want to go back and say, okay, this is not working out? Those kinds of things. How did you keep yourself motivated?
Well, I knew what I didn't want to do, and I didn't want to do what I had been doing. So I was pretty much done with that, and I was, instructing clients on where else to go and ending client relationships and moving on, basically, so that I could teach myself what I needed to know in order to do voiceovers well. And my husband was doing pretty well. He's an internet marketing guy for industrial clients.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was working for some industrial clients at the time, and that was keeping him busy, and that was keeping us with a roof over our head, which was nice. But it was kind of like in my SEO business, I had been fighting and clawing for every dollar. Like it just had felt like it was such hard work. Not that I minded it. I'm not averse to hard work. I'm fine with that. But it just didn't. It seemed almost like I was taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't happy with that. That was part of my dissatisfaction. So when I decided that I was going to do something else, you know what? When the net is gone, you just do what you have to do. You know, I had cut my ties. I had made my decision that this was where I was going to go. And it wasn't like we were earning a whole hell of a lot of money. So it wasn't like if I left that job, I would be destitute. Like it would just be the same old, same old.
Right.
We wouldn't be going up or down, but the potential was to go up. So for me, it was just get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Just go and get it done, because there's no going back. And it was more in my own head that there was no going back. Like, I probably could have gone back if I really needed to. I could have gone and worked at Starbucks if I really wanted to, but that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to devote my full time to getting better at a craft that I thought had real potential for growth. And I was right.
That's pretty awesome. So tell us what's in the future. What do you have planned? What are you doing new? What's going on?
Well, I'm actually a member of a mastermind group, a business mastermind group that is pushing me to constantly improve things, which is really motivating, and that's great. I love what I do, so just working with more clients is always the goal. And more interesting projects. Every project is different, and each have their own special sparkle of something different that is fun to participate in and be a part of, and put the nice shiny bow on the present that is their final project. And I've been doing podcast intro and outros, which is a lot of fun, and working on my own new podcast, which that will take some time. I have to get that underway.
I have a few questions for you, Jodi.
Sure.
I'm just going to shoot whatever comes to your mind. Tell us. What are you most thankful for?
Opportunity. I'm really glad that I have that I learned how to sit at home and do the work, because sometimes that's hard.
That's very true. And what are you most scared of?
Oh, that is a good question. Failure, I would think, would be the one, but I think it's deeper than that. I think it's almost failing so badly that I look like an idiot. Like, it's, it can happen to anyone. You got to pick yourself up and go out and do it again, I guess. But yeah, I guess, failing so badly that it looks silly.
Have you ever had clients that you just had a rough time with, like you had to do over your voice again and again? Do you still have them?
You know what? No. It's not that I haven't had clients like that. I have totally had clients like that. I think all of us have. But I learned in the early years of this career that if I want to craft a career that I love, I have to work with people I love. So if those people feel that if that company that is complaining every 5 seconds and isn't happy with anything I give them, if they really don't want me, then they should move on to someone else. And I'm fine with that. Maybe I'm not their person. Maybe I'm not the right voice for them. That is totally fine. I'm not everyone's right voice. But if they want to work with me, then it's a mutual respect environment. And I'm a partner in what they're putting out there in the world. And I want to make them look good. That's always my goal. So if they are not feeling like I'm giving that to them, or if I feel like maybe this isn't a great fit, then I'm happy to pass them on and, say, it was nice knowing you. I wish you well. And that's how I've patterned my career. So I work with people that I really adore. And I really can't say that I have any clients like that left.
All right.
That aren't satisfied.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
And
that can't be satisfied by me anyway.
And you do have repeat customers in your business?
I do. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think that's the backbone of just about any business. I don't think that you can survive in any business unless you have repeat clients.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, depending on what it is,
right?
Right. Yeah.
And what are you most happy about?
I'm most happy that I have crafted a career where I have time to actually relax and breathe and do what I want to do. And it took a number of years to get here and a lot of work. But, and it's not like it's not work now, but, it's a passion as well. So it feels like it's not work.
What do you look forward to?
Tomorrow.
That's awesome. And what would you like your legacy to be?
Spreading kindness. I would like to be known for being kind. I kind of like that. That's helpful, kind. Maybe it sounds cliche and awful and I don't know.
No, I think that's, I'm sure that's honest. And what would be one takeaway for the listeners that you would want to leave with?
Actually, the one thing that I would like to mention, and I am as guilty of this as anyone else, don't compare yourself to someone else's highlight reel on social media. Because that is death. It's just death. You're gonna hear everybody saying all the wonderful things that's going on in their lives, personal, professional, whatever. You're gonna see it all. You're gonna go, wow, I'm so happy for them. And then why isn't that happening for me? But you're only seeing the good stuff. You're not seeing the bad stuff. Right. You're not seeing how they got there. And you're not seeing what they had to give up to get there. So maybe when they got there, they gave up something you wouldn't want to give up. You don't know. So it's not comparable. They're apples and oranges. Right. Just you do you.
That's a great piece of advice, Jodi. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Before I let you go, would you like to say anything to our listeners, anything that you want them to know about you, your websites, where they can reach you?
Well, you can reach me at voiceoversandvocals.com or jodikrangle.com. That'll work too. And the blog on my website is where the podcast will originate and has originated in the past. So if you wanted to hear anything of that or read anything of that, that's where you'll find it. And my album is off of that website. So it's all there in the one place.
Awesome.
And if anyone needs anything, I'm happy to help.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Hey, I hope you liked that episode. Please make sure that you share Plan B Success podcast with your friends and family so that they might benefit from this content as well. By the way, if you're interested in podcasting and want to learn everything that is there to know about podcasting, I have recently launched my top podcast mastery program, which is available on my website, www.rajivmudumba.com. Go there, check it out. Thank you very much.